Hey guys, it's Candi. Welcome back. So today I am here to share with you guys all of the books that I read in December. And at first I was like, did I even read enough books this month to even make a video? And I did. I read 6 books. That's not a lot, but it's enough. The main reason I really want to share this video is I read 3 Colleen Hoover books this month. So love Colleen Hoover, one of my favorite authors. Still have yet to be completely disappointed by any of her books. However, some mixed feelings on the books that I read this month. We'll get into that here shortly, but let's just jump into it. The first book that I read for December was The Santa Suit by Mary Kay Andrews. You guys know, what was it, November? I shared this whole plethora of books that I was going to read, holiday books, in the month of December. And this is the only one out of all those books that I shared with you guys that I read. I tried to start reading, I think it was called One True Gift by Emily Stone. I just couldn't get into it. I don't know why. I think it was because you're living through Christmas, the preparations, the presents, the wrapping, all this stuff. It's like, do I really want to read about it too? Part of the fun of reading is like escaping into this whole other world. And I just wasn't feeling it this month. So I don't know if I'll ever read those books. Maybe next year. Maybe I'll read them in the summer. Who knows? I just know this is the only true Christmassy type book I read. Super cute, small town lady who buys a little farmhouse sight unseen because she just went through a divorce, wants to just move to another town, start her life over, basically running away from all of her problems. Her realtor is super hot. He ends up becoming friends with her. So they hit it off. He really has a crush on her. She's really like in that stage of like, oh, no guy would ever like me. I'm divorced, blah, blah, blah. The characters she meets in this book are just so darn cute. Wherever this little town is in this book, if it existed, I want to move there tomorrow. She meets this older man. She meets this girl that owns this little chocolate shop. Like you read it and you just want to be there. I absolutely loved it. Gave it 5 stars. Totally recommend. Like, read it now. Who cares? You don't have to wait for Christmas. It's so good. First Colleen Hoover book I read was Heartbones. And it's funny, when I posted about this, I rated it 4 out of 5 on the Colleen Hoover scale, like comparing all of her books to each other, but 5 out of 5 if comparing it out of all the books I read for the year, if that makes sense. This isn't my favorite Colleen Hoover book ever. This one is about this girl, Bea, starts out right away in true Colleen Hoover style, jump right into the action. Her mom dies. So she ends up having to go live with her father, who she basically barely even knows because her mom just did a really crappy job of allowing her father to be in her life. Her father is this rich, wealthy guy, remarried with some stepchildren. And then the mother was like trailer park, no money, drug addict, alcoholic, all that. So she all of a sudden is just transformed into this whole new world that she knows nothing about. When she goes to live with her father, it's in this beach house in this very wealthy town. She makes close friends with her sister, who's like, I think a couple of years older than her, who treats her and welcomes her very kindly, which I thought was unusual. Usually in those circumstances, the older sister's gonna be like a total brat, especially rich people, but she's so sweet to her. She ends up meeting this guy, Samson, who is also very wealthy, comes from a rich family as well, and then all this crazy stuff starts happening, and I wasn't expecting, like, at first you're like, where's the story going? And the twist and all that at the end was really good. So definitely recommend. I've yet to read a Colleen Hoover book that I wouldn't recommend, so definitely like that one. Then I read Layla by Colleen Hoover as well. This one was quite different. You know how people say Verity by Colleen Hoover's like different than her normal like romance story? This one fits up there somewhere with Verity because this is more, it starts out, you think it's just going to be like all the other books that she's written But this one all of a sudden hits this point where it's like sci-fi, sort of paranormal. So if you're totally against those types of books, you might not enjoy this. But if you can, you know, have an open mind and get into it, it's really good. I give this one 4.5. It basically starts out, you have this girl, Layla, obviously, this guy Leeds. Layla's at her sister's wedding at this bed and breakfast. Leeds is in the band that's playing at her sister's wedding. They hit it off right away, and from that point on are basically inseparable. Well, Layla ends up getting attacked, hurt pretty badly, ends up in the hospital fighting for her life. Months later, when she's kind of recovered, but not fully, she's still got a lot of issues going on. Leeds decides he wants to whisk her away back to the bed and breakfast to kind of reconnect, rekindle the romance, and kind of just, I don't know, a little vacation for Layla because she's just been through the ringer. But as soon as they arrive, Layla just starts acting really, really weird. Just all this strange stuff starts happening. I remember halfway through the book, I was like, I cannot do this. This Leeds guy is a total jerk. Like, where does he get off? Like, oh my God, he made me so mad. So again, all this bizarre stuff starts happening and you're kind of like, where's this going? And then, as always, huge twist, was blown away at the ending. Would have never in a million years guessed what was happening. Great ending, totally unexpected, loved it. Definitely recommend. And I read Kiss Her Once for Me by Ellison Cochran. This was a book of the month club pick for December, and the reason I picked this is because it was kind of Christmassy themed and I seen other people were reading it, so I was like, let's read a book that I can, you know, some of these people I'm following on Instagram, I can know what they're talking about basically. I give this one a 3.5. I really loved the main character. I loved the growth of the main character. I loved her storyline. So many parts of it were like drawn out that I just was like, oh my God, we all know how this is gonna end. Can we just get to it? So it's basically about Ellie, the main character. She's kind of not doing very well financially. She finds herself in a situation where this guy, who's like the owner of the restaurant that she works at, or the little coffee shop that I believe is what it was, proposes to her a situation where if he would marry her, he would come into a bunch of money, and he offered her $200,000 to marry him basically, so he can get this inheritance money. And then it ends up when Ellie goes to meet his family at the holidays. His sister is actually this woman who she had met and had this like one night fling with that she really truly thought was like the love of her life. But then like the next morning something happened and she just, whatever, it didn't work out. But she always had this woman in the back of her mind that like they were meant to be together. So yeah, that girl, it's his sister. And so all kinds of drama ensues. And next, I read The Rewind by Ellison Wynne Scotch. This one actually takes place right around New Year's Eve. So again, I thought it was a perfect pick for the end of the year. And I only give this one 3 stars. I think the disappointment in this one is the story was really good. It went back and forth between past and present time with this two people, with this couple that they dated in college and had this like great relationship, but horrible breakup. They went their separate ways. Now they're forced to be back together because one of their friends is getting married. They kind of together, the two of them are thrown into this whirlwind of situation where they're reminiscing on their past. All this stuff keeps getting brought up and you just feel like the build up to the end was like so good. And then I just felt like the ending fell a little bit flat for me. So if it wasn't for the ending, I would definitely give it a strong 4 stars. But the ending to me was just a little, Then we jump back into Colleen Hoover, the last book that I read for December, Hopeless. And all along, I knew that I had read a Colleen Hoover book years and years ago. All I know that it was, we were living in our old house because I remember reading it while taking a bath, at least the end of the book, and laying in the bathtub and crying. at the end of the book. For the longest time I thought maybe it ends with us. And then after reading this in bits and pieces, we're like, oh, I remember that. I remember that. However, I did not remember one of the main twists or plot points of this book until I read it, and then I was like, oh yeah, now I remember. This book is about Skye and Holder. Skye is a senior in high school. She was always homeschooled by her mother, and she decided before she goes away to college she wants to attend a real high school to kind of get her feet wet of what it might feel like to be in like a normal classroom setting. She meets Holder, all this chemistry. Of course, he's this troubled boy with the past. All the arrows point to the fact that Skye should be running in the opposite direction, but of course she doesn't. Even when he does things that are wrong, she just continues to be drawn back to him. It's a cute story in terms of the romance. They take things really slow, a lot of first kiss and all that stuff. Those parts made it cute, and then all of a sudden you discover the big fork in the road where the big twist is uncovered, and you're just like, holy smokes, things are about to go down. Per usual, I felt like this book ended really, really well. Loved it. Gave this book 5 stars. I know that there is Losing Hope, which is basically the story of Holder and Skye meeting for the first time, but from Holder's perspective. And even though, like, I don't know, I have a really hard time with that. You guys know that I'm a die-hard Twilight fan, and I could not get through Midnight Sun, which was Edward's point of view of Twilight. I want to say I got in maybe like 100, 150 pages, and I was like, I already know what happens. Like, I don't know. But then when I reread Twilight the second time, like, it was really good. I don't know. It's hard for me to explain. So I'm just nervous that I didn't know that that's what Losing Hope was until I got done reading this, and I was like, should I read that next? Should I read something else? You have Finding Cinderella and Finding Perfect, which is just a really short novella. Those all go together. I thought All Your Perfects went together as well, but when I looked it up, I guess it doesn't go together. I don't know. I'm confused. If you guys know, if you've read them all, fill me in. Do I need to read all of them kind of like together or what? So that is my wrap up for December. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Comment down below if you have any thoughts on the books that I shared, what you rated them, if you liked them, and so on. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.